is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Minnesota.
Ninth inning last night, tie game, 2 on, 2 outs, a clutch hit by Adam Jones, this 2-run single. And Jones and the Orioles had won again against the Minnesota Twins for the 4th time already this season in comeback fashion. They win it 5-3. Fans arriving at Target Field with ponchos and umbrellas in play. The rain is light right now. We're expecting heavier showers later today. Welcome inside the ballpark for the end of this brief 2-game series before the Twins go back on the road and head to Cleveland. It's been a rough start for the Minnesota Twins. They're in the middle of a 6-game losing streak. But one of the bright spots along the way has been the play of utility infielder Eduardo Nunez. Red hot right now. He's riding a 9-game hit streak into this contest. Inside the hit streak, he's batting .324. Overall for the season, Nunez batting .370, a homer, 10 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases, getting it done all over the place for Paul Molitor's team. And we asked Mr. Nunez, what has been the key to his great success in the batter's box of late?
I don't think any special things I've been doing. Just we keep working. What I've been working all the time, you know. Different, I think I have more about consistent. So my timing is more on time the day before. When you play one day every week, it's hard to keep your timing on time all the time. Sometimes you're off, sometimes you're not.
Nunez will bat second and play shortstop today, trying to be a table setter for one of the big guys behind him. His name is Trevor Plouffe. He had a huge game last night. We'll show you when you come back why Trevor Plouffe is such a clutch contributor for the Minnesota Twins.
On Fox Sports North is presented by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. By Dodge. Visit Dodge.com or your local dealer today. And by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for the everyday competitor in all of us. A light mist falling at Target Field this afternoon. We appear to be getting started on time in the hopes of having uninterrupted baseball. Twins need a good start from Phil Hughes. He'll be facing right-hander Tyler Wilson of the Baltimore Orioles. And we welcome you to Target Field. Dick Bramer along with Roy Smalley for the finale of this very brief homestand. The Twins have been struggling offensively. One thing has been apparent, that Trevor Plouffe hitting out of the cleanup spot has become one of the more important and more reliable hitters in the lineup.
I think it's meaningful to note that the last time the Twins looked like they were going to do anything is when they swept the Angels here at Target Field, and Trevor Plouffe was the guy that got 8 hits and 12 at-bats and drove in just about every run that he looked at. Then he got hurt, and the Twins' fortunes really went from kind of bad to really bad. This is a very important man in the middle of their lineup. He's a proven run producer, and the good news is he's starting to heat up again.
Well, the Twins will need some offense here today, apparently, because the Baltimore Orioles are really hitting the ball well for a lot of power. Last 2 ball games, they have hit 8 home runs, 2 of them here last night.
Well, this is the way this ball club is built, is guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. There's a lot of guys with low batting averages they can be pitched to, but if you make a mistake to Adam Jones or to Mark Trumbo or to Chris Davis, and especially to Manny Machado, these guys are going to hurt you. And I really believe that Trumbo is the key to this lineup going forward for the Orioles. Adam Jones is going to hit 20 plus. Chris Davis is going to hit 30 plus. There's no telling how good Manny Machado is going to be. The key is Mark Trumbo, and is he for real? This good start really for real.
And the Twins again are hoping Phil Hughes can give them a good start, get off to a good start himself, maybe put up a few zeros early on in this ball game this afternoon.
He's going to get you out, and that's kind of the way I like it. He doesn't really nibble around the zone. He comes right after you.
Phil Hughes hoping to pick up his 2nd win of the year, his 2nd appearance this year against the Baltimore Orioles. He pitched in the 2nd game of the year, went 6 innings, gave up 3 earned runs. Quality start. but a loss nonetheless because the Twins, of course, have been struggling to score runs against the Orioles. Buck Showalter saw the Twins sweep the season series last year. The Twins won all 7 games, including all 4 in Baltimore. But this year it's been the other way around. The Menards batting order: Joey Rickard leading things off, Manny Machado, Adam Jones, Chris Davis, Mark Trumbo, Nolan Reimold, Jonathan Scope, Ryan Flaherty, and the catcher this afternoon, Caleb Joseph.
And as we mentioned, Phil Hughes on the mound. He of the strike after strike personality. Tough duty against the Orioles sluggers.
Up and in, ball 1. Hughes has had a terrible time pitching clean early innings in his last few starts. And there's a fastball and a strike. Lasted just 2 innings in his last start against the Astros at Minute Maid Park. And on the outside corner with the cutter.
There's that cutter that his teammates were talking about. And if he can throw it right there all the time, then that bodes well.
And a slower breaking ball, and Rickard takes it 2-2.
And that's the one that I like for Phil Hughes to use as much as he can. They're just something that's a different speed and a different trajectory than his fastball and his cutter. He tends to get fastball cutter happy, in my opinion, and it all is kind of on the same plane and similar speed.
2-2. Hold foul. Well, one thing that we've seen from Phil, and if there was an easy answer, Neil Allen would have resolved it by now, but the velocity of his fastball is down to where it's not a whole lot faster than the cutter is. You see the fastball at 91 and the cutter at 89.
Right, and that's a bit of an issue.
High fly to left field. Rosario's out there staring up into the mist. 1 away. Northland Ford defense for the Minnesota Twins. Rosario back in left field, Santana in center, Sano in right. Plouffe and Nunez, Dozier and Park the infielders, Bauer the designated hitter, and Juan Centeno gets the start behind the plate.
And I want to clarify, when I say it's an issue that the cutter and the fastball are of similar speed, it's only an issue that's magnified if he doesn't throw something slower than that. Good cutter there at 89 miles an hour. And if those were the only 2 pitches he had, then that's an issue. If he mixes in a curveball and changeup once in a while, then he's okay with that pitch right there. That's the one that makes a hitter think, I can't just stay on the same speed, same plane all the time.
Cutter and a curve, 0-2 to the hottest hitter in the league. And another breaking ball, this one in the dirt. One and 2 to Manny Machado. High fly right field. Sano backpedaling and on the track makes the catch 2 away. And Hughes off to a good start here with a couple of fly ball outs, and now Adam Jones.
Adam Jones off to a real slow start, as you can see by the .210 batting average, but he has been good, as a good veteran hitter will be. He's been good with men on base. We saw that unfortunately last night. Always a dangerous hitter.
A fly ball right field. Sano makes the catch on a quick 1-2-3 inning for Phil Hughes. First time in 4 starts he's pitched a scoreless first. Bill Hughes and the Twins. An early 0 put up. Paul Molitor hoping that the Twins can end a losing streak here today before they head back out onto the road. The Menards batting order. Joe Mauer in the leadoff spot again. Then Eduardo Nunez, Brian Dozier, Trevor Plouffe, Miguel Sano on his birthday. Hitting in the 5th spot, Young Ho Park, Eddie Rosario, Juan Centeno, and Danny Santana.
Tyler Wilson on the mound for the Orioles. Started 3 games this year, has pitched pretty well. Nothing really overpowering, but again, nibbles around the strike zone.
Joe Mauer leading things off. Joe having a bad week back on May 2nd. His average was .337, and now it's down to .291.
So here's Tyler Wilson. What in the world?
You haven't noticed? I do that before every telecast.
You know what? Play-by-play guys and pitchers are weird.
1 strike to Mauer. And a ball sliced to left, a base hit. Joe gets an opening single. Twins scored a 1st inning run last night and saw the Orioles come back and win it late. You see Mauer got a walk, but went hitless. Nunez with a hit in the 1st inning scored a run. Dozier and Plouffe did well with this new lineup, but then you look up and there were just 3 runs scored. It's not like they scored 7 or 8 last night. The lineup still struggling to score runs. In the 4 losses against the Orioles, the Twins have scored a total of 9 runs. Here is Nunez. He's been the most consistent hitter the Twins have had so far this year. A throw to first just to remind Joe that they know he's there.
Joe wouldn't be classified as a base stealer, but he will steal a base on you if you don't pay attention to him. So
hence the throw.
Yep.
Now Nunez jabs at it, and it's a strike.
Another one of the things about baseball players today that drives me crazy, and this one only because I hit in front of the greatest bunter I think I've ever seen in my life, Rod Carew, and I watched how he did it. And you'll notice guys now, almost without fail, when they decide to drop down a bunt, they are starting to run before or as they're making contact. And you invariably cannot make a good bunt that way.
That's down the right field line. Reimold is there for the catch. 1 down. And that'll bring up Brian Dozier. Northland 4 defense for the Orioles. Rule 5 pickup Joey Rickard gets left field again. Adam Jones in center. Reimold is in right field. Flaherty and Machado left side of the infield. Scope Davis on the right side. Only once this year have the Orioles caught Matt Wieters in back-to-back games. This wasn't a likely opportunity for that anyway with the noon game after the night game, but Caleb Joseph gets to play almost as much behind the plate as Matt Wieters does. Here's Dozier. And a strike over the inside corner. Dozier thought it was inside. Dozier with a couple of hits, getting the average up to 230. Been a steady climb as Mauer's average has come down. Dozier's average has gone up. There's a high fly to the left field corner. And Rickard makes the catch, 2 away. And that'll bring up Plouffe.
Well, this is the case with all teams. You want 5-6 guys swinging the bat well during the in 5 or 6 guys in the lineup all swinging well at the same time. I mean, that's the way you score a lot of runs. And the Twins, I think, in particular, are built that way. They just haven't had that at all. When you look at not only the batting averages, but the batting with runners in scoring position and the number of RBIs. I mean, everybody's down. We've not seen Dozier be Dozier. We've not seen Sano be Sano really yet. I just have to believe that at some point in time, what we saw the second half of last season with Sano, for example, or the first half of the season with Dozier. Some of that stuff is going to start evening out.
1-0 to Plouffe. And a strike call. Sanford Health injury report. And I like what Tim Laudner said about that. You never come off the disabled list and swing like you did when you went on.
No, never ever. There's generally an 0 for 10 in there at least before you get rolling again.
1-1 to Plouffe. And lifted foul over the Twins dugout. Twins saw Wilson on opening day. He had weather issues, as you may remember, in Baltimore. And the game was halted after 2 innings, and Wilson was the first pitcher to resume the game for the Orioles. 3 effective innings of relief. And now dug out by Joseph, 2-2. So it should help a little bit, I would guess. At least most of these Twins hitters have seen the young man before, getting a chance to start as the needs have arisen for the Orioles. And lifted foul, that will reach the seats as well.
Familiarity with the pitcher, as far from a hitter standpoint, is so important. The more at bats you get against somebody, it just becomes so much more comfortable. Even if you don't swing, hit a certain guy well. At least you know how they're trying to get you out, what his stuff is. And you recognize pitches. So even seeing him for 3 innings, a lot of these, as you mentioned, a lot of these guys, Twins hitters, they have a pretty good idea.
Another 2-2. And a fly ball to center. And an easy play for Jones. And the Twins get a leadoff single, then 3 fly ball outs. We've got a scoreless first here at Target Field.
To the top of the second. Couple of players on display this series from South Korea. We'll start with Minnesota's first baseman, of course, Byung-ho Park. On the other side, not in the lineup, is Hyun-Soo Kim. They're getting it done in different ways. For Kim on the Orioles side, he already has 4 infield hits. He's a pretty big guy. That's surprising. And for Park, of course, already 7 home runs. I had a conversation with Byung-ho Park along with his translator, JD, about that connection. He said it really helped him, guys, that opening series. It was his first kick at the can in the bigs. He said to have another player from his country that he had played against and knew, have those conversations, really helped him settle in for that opening series. They've reconnected here this week at Target Field, and it's certainly a nice connection to have in the bigs when there aren't that many players from back home.
Well, thank you, Kevin. And Kim's in a different situation than Park in that Here's the 0-2 to Chris Davis. Missing inside 1 and 2. The Twins had and still do, have the option of sending Hart down to the minor leagues if at any point they deem that necessary. Thankfully, it hasn't been necessary. 1 and 2 to Davis. And now 2 and 2. The Orioles, to sign Kim, had to sign a contract that he would play at the major league level. He insisted upon that. They did not have the option of sending him down, even though that was their intent at the end of spring training. He said, no, I don't want to go down to the minor leagues. I'll stay here, thank you. And so he scarcely plays. 23 at bats on the season. He had a very, very difficult spring training. Didn't leave a real good first impression with the field staff with the Orioles. Full count. And a diving attempt by Dozier, and the ball rolls into right center field. A leadoff single for Chris Davis. And that'll bring up Mark Trumbo. The Twins flex plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. Choose in advance, even the day of the game if you'd like. So don't plan, flex plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more. So coming out of spring training, when we were in Baltimore, there was some hand-wringing over the Orioles roster for 2 reasons. Off the plate outside ball 1. They were carrying a Rule 5 player by necessity, Rickard. They didn't know how well he would play. And then they were consuming a roster spot with Kim, who they didn't intend on playing. Well, obviously the Orioles are in first place, so
what's the problem?
Yeah, there are larger issues, aren't there? High fly left center field. Trumbo's really, really strong, and he has just hit a home run off the facing of the second deck, and it's 2-0 Baltimore. A single by Davis, and then Trumbo hitting his 10th home run of the year.
Trumbo has always carried this ability right here. And you watch this swing, fastball in the middle of the plate, and he just launches it. Great leg drive from his back leg into his front. Fast bat and extension through the zone. Generally ends up in the upper deck.
Reimold gets jammed, a dribbler foul, 1 strike.
And that's why I was saying in the opener of our show, where I really think that Mark Trumbo is the guy, as much as Machado, who has carried this Baltimore club and is the key to how well they are ultimately going to do in this lineup. You see Adam Jones hitting down around 200, Chris Davis hitting down around 200. The spot that Trumbo hits in the lineup, as Reimold fouls away another one, the spot that he hits in the lineup is going to get an awful lot of opportunities to drive runs that Jones and Davis don't pick up. And if he is the 3rd guy there behind Machado to drive in a bunch of runs, hit a bunch of home runs, this Orioles team looks really good.
2 hopper to Plouffe, and over to Park, 1 away. For the Twins, more early runs allowed by Phil Hughes in his last 3 starts. Prior to the start here today, he'd given up 8 runs in the first inning. And then in his last start against Houston, he gave up 3 in the first, then 3 more in the second, and he was done for the day.
Yeah, the word's out on Phil Hughes. I mean, there's no mystery anymore of opposing hitters. They start swinging right from the on-deck circle against Phil because they know he's going to be around the plate, and he just is a strike-throwing guy, and he has good command of the strike zone, but not so much in the strike zone, meaning he leaves a lot of balls in the middle of the plate. They're all strikes, but they're not all perimeter of the zone kind of strikes. And so fastballs in the middle of the plate against a free swinging club is
rocket right into the Twins dugout, right over the shoulder of Paul Molitor. Everybody's okay, I guess. 1 and 2.
So anyway, it all fits together. That's why I was talking about the need to throw a lot of off-speed stuff to go with the fastball and the cutter, because the fastball and cutter are going to be relatively close to the same speed and same plane, and they're going to be around the plate all the time. And free swing and home run hitter guys are going to be ready for something in the strike zone that's kind of the same speed.
Missed inside, close pitch, and it's a full count to Scope. Flaherty will follow. Swing and a miss. Hughes goes upstairs to get a strikeout. That's something we too have not seen as much of, and that problem went back to last year. Hughes simply hasn't struck out as many people. That's just his 22nd strikeout on the year.
Well, that pitch right there used to get a lot of strikeouts for Phil when he was about 3 miles an hour faster with the fastball, and we just haven't seen that velocity in some time. He's got a sneaky short arm delivery, so I think the fastball in his career, fastballs have always been a little bit tough for hitters to pick up, and when he was throwing 94 especially.
Yeah, 2 years ago, his first year with the Twins, of course, everything went great, won 16 ball games, and he struck out about 8 men per 9 innings pitched. Last year, that number dropped down to 6, and that's about where he's at now. And it's not, I don't suppose, just the fact that the strikeouts aren't as frequent, but the cause for the lack of the strikeouts, and it's the compression between the fastball and the cutter, and maybe not as pinpoint a control with the cutter as he had 2 years ago. 1-2 to Flaherty, and another strikeout, this time on a breaking ball. A 2-run home run for Trumbo. Another Oriole home run. The Twins behind 2-0, and Miguel Sano hopes to end a homerless drought in the bottom of the 7th. First 2 runs of the game, a 2-run home run by Mark Trumbo, and Miguel Sano, who today is celebrating his 23rd birthday, will lead things off in the bottom of the 2nd. Now, one thing we've never done on Twins television is had an analyst sing a solo of happy birthday to a Twins player.
We'll still be looking for that tomorrow.
Strike 1. 23 years ago today in San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic.
I've played there.
You played there?
I have played in San Pedro de Macorís.
And Sano takes 2 strikes.
Spent a winter in the Dominican Republic playing in the capital, Santo Domingo. We would take bus trips out to San Pedro and also Santiago.
Long list of major leaguers from San Pedro de Macorís.
A lot of shortstops.
Just off the outside corner, and it's 1-2 to Sano. Hasn't homered in 2.5 weeks. And has been stuck on 3 home runs since then. The average along the way is dropped down to 225. Just off the corner again, 2-2.
Just think that Sano going through a bit of a struggle here was absolutely predictable and if not downright expected.
A high fly to left center field. Sano is big and strong like Trumbo, and he hit one almost off the same spot of the facing of the second deck, and that ends the home run drought.
And I love the fact that that swing came on a 2-strike pitch with the ball up and in on him a little bit, a pitch that has given him a little trouble, and obviously not trying to hit a home run there with 2 strikes, and he reacted very well. You watch this ball come up and in, and he's able to just react to it. And again, another man with a tremendously powerful swing.
Honestly, that ball couldn't have landed more than 2 or 3 feet away from where Trumbo's hit. It was off the facing of the second deck, wasn't it?
Trumbo's was measured 431. That's going to be right in there somewhere.
He wants the baseball. Is that what I understood from that signal? At any rate, a nice way to celebrate your birthday, your first swing. And here comes the baseball out of the ball game. That's not the. I believe that's the ball that he hit out. It didn't come back on the field to play, did it?
I didn't see that it did.
Now a tapper foul. Young-Ho Park got his first major league hit against Tyler Wilson on opening day in Baltimore. 2 strikes.
Just to finish the thought about Sano, you don't really know, a hitter doesn't even know what kind of hitter he is until he gets 1,200 at bats in the big leagues. And there was just going to be some streaks that you just felt like had to be coming for Sano, for Eddie Rosario. It just is it's a different level up here for sure. And pitchers can work on you and find weaknesses, and then it works on your mind. And there's a lot of things you have to go through for 1,000 at bats or 1,200 at bats before you really know who you are as a hitter.
Missing inside, and now it's 2-2 to Park. Rosario on deck. And Park do that on some swing and misses. That back foot comes up out of the ground. He strikes out for the first out of the second inning. Rosario will bat back in the lineup in left field. Rosario and Arcia have pretty much split time out there so far this year.
Yep, manager Paul Molitor just waiting for one of them to take charge of the position, both in the outfield and in the batting order.
Rosario takes a strike.
Neither one of them have done that, obviously. Seen flashes from each one of them. Balls hit out of the ballpark, but nothing with any consistency.
1-1. You mentioned Rosario's struggled this year, and maybe it's not unexpected. It's got to be more difficult for a hitter in the big leagues for a full season for the first time. And that's the case for both Sano and Rosario. When there aren't, for lack of a better example, like a Victor Martinez or a Miguel Cabrera, somebody in the lineup, a veteran hitter who has been consistent for a long time. The ball dribbled back toward the mound. And Wilson makes the play. 2 down. That'll bring up Centeno. And I'm not explaining the premise very well, but you know, would it be easier for a Sano or a Rosario or Buxton when he was here if the Twins had more veterans, established players, just kind of, you know, hitting 260, 270, 280, whatever?
Well, I think what would make the biggest difference, especially for Miguel Sano, is going to make a difference any hitter. You come up to a lineup full of really good productive hitters up and down the lineup, and you get to be one of them. The pressure's not on you so much.
Right.
The focus is not on how many home runs and RBIs you have when the team's not going all that good, right? And so for a young guy who just turned 23 today,
ball slapped to left. Centeno has a base hit.
To come up and be be expected to be the fourth place hitter. I mean, the expectations I'm sure he had of himself. If I'm going to hit fourth, I'm going to hit 30 home runs, I'm going to drive in 110 runs, and we're going to win. And those numbers are not in evidence yet in terms of home runs, RBIs, wins, anything. And it certainly would be easier for a good young hitting prospect to come up into a team where he wasn't the guy. It wasn't expected to be.
Here's Santana. Santana hasn't spent a full season in the big leagues. And I guess as you look at what's happened to the Twins this year, up and away, ball one. There are obviously too many guys like that who have not gone through the wars for a full season. Arcia hardly was here last year. Santana hasn't spent a full year in the big league. Neither is Rosario. Obviously Part, Sano. And there's I suppose a fine line between trying to make excuses or find reasons, but I really think as you look at some of these younger hitters, and Santana still, he's got 700 and some at bats, and he's still relatively inexperienced. 1-1 and now 2-1.
Well, I think the point that I would make, in agreement with you, I mean, I think the point that I would make is, before spring training even started, listening to the expectations and hearing fans talk about the Twins, and to use one of my daughter's terms, I just felt like people needed to pump the brakes a little bit on on the expectations.
Chopper to short with the rain starting to come down, and a throw across. We've completed 2 innings. The rain is coming down. It's 2-1 Baltimore, and we'll return to a soggy Target Field in a moment. Fox Sports North is presented by CenturyLink. Switch to CenturyLink Prism TV for an advanced TV experience. Learn more at cprismtv.com. Down to the third. First pitch strike delivered to the leadoff man here in the third inning. Catcher Caleb Joseph. And fouled away, and the rain picking up in intensity here. Joseph's going to go back and get some more pine tar or stick 'em, whatever. Rosin you a big pine tar user?
Yeah, I used pine tar all the time and extensively, and when it gets wet like this, you have to use a little rosin, which Joseph did to dry out the pine tar. Pine tar can get a little slick in the rain, so you got to get the right combination of stuff.
Well, that's true in any walk of life.
Yeah.
To the right field corner, Sano runs it down with a leap at the end, 1 away. Pretty well hit ball for the first out of the 3rd inning. Fox Sports North is proud to partner with Girls on the Run Twin Cities to empower girls to be healthy and confident. Join us for the Girls on the Run Spring 5K presented by Alaris Mortgage, Saturday, June 4th at Normandale Community College in Bloomington. To register, visit foxsportsnorth.com and click on upcoming events. Here's Joey Rickert, and there's ball 1. And now 2-0. Popped up and out of play. So many kids here today from schools all around the Twins territory, and I'm guessing they don't mind at all that it's raining. They prefer it not be raining, but if the alternative was being in school,
they're right where they want to be.
2-2.
You know, kids, school kids, especially elementary school kids, everything's an adventure. Even, I went to Target Field, saw a Twins game, got rained on, but everything's good.
And there's a call, 3rd strike. The cutter freezing Rickard for out number 2. That'll bring up Machado.
Good pitch there as the little front door cutter, I think they call it now. Where he throws the cutter that starts in off the plate and zips back in on the corner.
Machado made it out in the 1st inning. Hit a fly ball to right. Half swing and a strike.
I said in the open of the show, and I really do believe this. I don't think there's a ceiling for this guy yet. I don't know that you can define where you think he's gonna get to. So much talent. Talking about Machado.
Well, they're all about the same age, and Mike Trout in the American League and Bryce Harper in the National League have got most of the headlines, but this guy has just been a tremendous player already for the Orioles, and to be as productive as he's been. And the graph line still going up. Here's a fly to center, and Santana trying to track it down. He makes the catch on the edge of the track. A 1-2-3 3rd inning for Bill Hughes.
the third. The important pieces of the puzzle here at Target Field down the line, the ball girls and ball boys. Tough to live up to the hype from what happened last night. Let's start cricket, something to smile about. The ball boy in the 9th inning last night was breaking news all over social media. His name is Kennison Nelson, and what a catch it was. This guy is a former player at Wayzata, going to play baseball at Century College. He's not working the game today, but said he had dozens of messages from family and relatives after seeing that play last night. It was played all over the place. Heck of a catch, and you kind of take those people for granted, guys, but they do save some of the fans who are busy doing what they do at the ballpark, which is watching the game, eating food, texting, and not paying attention. What a catch last night by Kennison Nelson. I hope the manager at Century College was watching. He could probably use that mitt next year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. That was maybe the highlight in another Twins loss last night, the fact that the ball boy made a great catch. 1 strike to Joe Mauer. He singled to left his first time up. Nunez and Dozier will follow. Rain has lightened up considerably here. It's still raining, but not nearly as hard as it was in the top half of the inning. 1-1. That's down the left field line, and Rickard chasing it, and a nice running catch toward the corner. 1 down. Bring up Nunez. Nunez with a fly to right his first time up. The biggest question mark for the Orioles coming into the year, and I'm not sure that the question's been answered to everyone's satisfaction yet. The starting pitching, and would they have enough to compete? And they've made changes along the way. Tyler Wilson added to the rotation now. They had an open spot because of a doubleheader played over the weekend. This game was kind of an open game. Vance Worley might have gotten a chance to start pitching out of their bullpen today. They ate the contract of Miguel Gonzalez, who later signed a minor league deal and started the other day for the Chicago White Sox. 0-2 to Nunez. Dribbled foul. That ended up between the legs of the home plate umpire, Tom Woodring. Two strikes to Nunez. Taken low.
Now there's an amazing statistic right there. Ground balls versus fly balls. That's got to tell a hitter something. You know, the reason that is for Nunez, I'm pretty sure, is that 500 average when hitting a ground ball and 0.63 when the ball's in the air, a fly ball. Now I don't know where line drives fall in because he's hit a bunch of those, but his swing, generally speaking, is his hands and the big end of the bat come from above the ball, certainly at least level, which will
check swing 3-2,
which will end up hitting line drives and balls on the ground much more so than in the air, and it's a great way to approach the baseball. It's the reason why he's hitting 370 or whatever he said, at least in this streak. But I don't know that I've ever seen a stat that is that disparate in terms of ground balls versus fly balls.
Fly ball right center field.
I'll just tell you that right now.
Based on the stat we just showed you, it was in the air. It's an out, number 2.
Well, I mean, think about it. A fly ball is no good unless it goes out of the ballpark for the most part. And in the big leagues, if the ball is in the air, if you hit a fly ball and it stays in the ballpark, managers expect their outfielders to come down with most of them. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, batting average for everybody, I would imagine, would be lower than if he hit the ball in the air. But Nunez in particular, with the way he swings.
Dozier had a fly to left his first time up. Takes an off-speed pitch for strike one. Fouled away. Now 2 strikes. Twins have touched Wilson for 3 hits, including Sano's home run. You can see the grounds crew treat the mound between innings. It looks like it's glistening out there a little bit. That wet clay. It's to left center field, and Rickard comes in to make the catch. A 1-2-3 third for Tyler Wilson. The Orioles have a 2-1 lead. By Northland Ford. Visit northlandford.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. And you can see they did put a little of the, probably not called diamond dust anymore. That's probably a trademark term. And we can get in trouble for using, but whatever they use now to treat a wet baseball field, they did treat the mound with it.
You know, another trademark name I think that used to be used, it was they called it Turface. T-U-R-F-A-C-E, as in turf and surface, I suppose.
At any rate, it looks like the footing's a little bit better on the mound. And we're about ready for the 4th inning. It'll be Adam Jones, Chris Davis, and Mark Trumbo to face Phil Hughes, who has a couple of 1-2-3 innings. But in the 2nd inning, Davis started the inning with a single. Trumbo hit a home run, and the Orioles jumped out in front.
Wait a minute, the Orioles hit a home run today?
Yes.
It's new.
Jones hit one last night, got a hanging breaking ball and clobbered it. Then got the big base hit in the 9th inning against Kevin Jepson. Give the Orioles a 5-3 win. First pitch fouled back.
Orioles building their team, channeling Earl Weaver, who always wanted to have good starting pitching, and guys could hit 3-run home runs. They're still working on the starting pitching part of it, but they've got the 3-run homer guys in the lineup.
I don't know that they have a Palmer, Cuellar, Dobson, McNally.
Yeah, unfortunately they had that when I was playing.
Big swing and a miss, 1 and 2.
And then it wasn't too bad later on when they had Flanagan and Boddicker and Dennis Martinez and Scotty McGregor. It could throw some offers at you too.
1-2 to the leadoff man of the Baltimore fourth. Centeno slides to his right to make the block or catch. 2-2. Sharp single to left. A breaking ball. Jones reached across the plate and lined a leadoff single in the fourth.
Okay, I believe now that Adam Jones can hit a hanger breaking ball.
Target Field suites are available for single game rental for groups of 16 to 150 plus. You can enjoy a climate controlled experience and a fantastic view of a Twins game. Food and beverage included. Learn more at twinsbaseball.com/groups or call 833-TWINS to schedule your suite at Target Field. Here's Chris Davis. He singled in front of Trumbo's home run in the second. And there goes a drive to right field. And as happened in the second inning, right after a leadoff single, a 2-run home run, this time off the bat of Chris Davis, his 9th of the year, and it's 4-1.
Well, these guys make an absolute living on hitting mistakes. We talked about that in the open as well. And you can't throw the ball where you want to all the time. That's for sure. But when you get against a team like this, balls in the middle of the strike zone fly out of ballparks. It's just the way it's going to be. That ball is right in his wheelhouse. He is a strong man. That ball is hit a long, long way.
There's a blast to left center field. Santana chasing it. And that's gone. Back-to-back pitches have been hit out of the ballpark, and Trumbo has 2 today. Home runs 10 and 11. And it's 5-1.
Another high fastball. This one elevated a little bit in the zone, but again, Trumbo, like Machado, big strong guy that's on fire right now, and he gets 91-mile-an-hour fastballs up in the zone. He's going to have a chance to put a pretty good swing on it.
Here's Rimo. Ball 1. Look where the target was, and look where the pitch was.
Yep.
Whatever the distance is on our Fox Tracks strike zone rectangle there, the target was down and away, and the pitch was as up and in as it could be and still be a strike. Oh, you went to USC. Now you must have taken some geometry classes. The plate is what, 17 inches wide, right?
It is.
Width of what, 7 baseballs. Dribbled foul. So figure that out for him. 2 feet.
Well, I'm not going to be able to figure it out geometrically, but all I'm going to say is that missed by home run result distance.
Okay. 2-2. And now 3-2. With some activity in the bullpen, and this could be another painfully short start and ineffective start for Phil Hughes.
See, I would be able to figure it out geometrically, but I don't know how tall Mark Trumbo is. You know, you have to take into account the height of the strike zone as well, which varies from hitter to hitter.
Swinging in a foul tip. Centeno hangs on, and Rybold strikes out. This home run by Chris Davis, it almost looked like a practice swing. He's so strong, he doesn't have to overswing.
Yeah, but watch where it lands.
No, I know.
Well, that's going to First Avenue.
Fouled back, a pitch left up, and Scope fouls it to the screen. Scope went down swinging his first time up. Oh, 2. Fox hit to left on an 0-2 pitch. Scope with a sharp single to left. 4th hit of the inning. It'll bring up Flaherty. Neil Allen to the mound. Bill Hughes turns away. Trip to the mound by the pitching coach. Pat Dean perhaps on the verge of making his major league debut. This is Hughes' 7th start of the year, and the first 4 were quality starts, but now the last 3, counting the 3 1/3 innings here today, the last 3 starts have gone a total of 10 1/3 innings, and he's given up 15 earned runs. Ball 1 inside. What do you see, Roy? I mean, he's not nearly as effective as he was 2 years ago, and you know, I can read the screen. I can see the velocity reading is down. Is it more complex than that? Foul back.
Part of it, I think a big part of it is velocity. That, you know, 3 miles an hour for Phil Hughes, because he's around the strike zone so much and in the middle of the strike zone so much. 3 miles an hour makes a big difference because it just gets guys in a little bit more of a hurry. The thing that I notice is how comfortable these Oriole hitters look at the plate. Every guy that walks up there, they may not hit the ball hard every time, but they just look comfortable up there. And generally speaking, that's because I think the velocity's down, and he's never really effectively wild at all. He doesn't come in on guys. You know, there was a single that Scope just hit, I think, is a great example. He gets ahead of him with a strike, makes him look real bad on a curveball. He's 0-2, and then he throws him kind of just a hittable fastball in on him, where probably the one place that Scope could put a good swing on it. So the fact that he can throw the ball in the strike zone, but not around the strike zone where he wants to enough of the time, and the velocity is down, I think are the 2 primary reasons.
2-2. Breaking ball. Well, we saw one 93-mile-per-hour fastball in the first inning, a 92-mile-per-hour fastball in the second. But whereas last night, Kevin Gausman of the Orioles was throwing 93 in the first inning, by the 4th or 5th inning, he was throwing 96, 97, and 98.
Right.
And for Hughes, it's going the other way.
Right. Well, his velocity's down, and his command in the strike zone is just not great. And these Oriole hitters, I mean, are really, really good.
Park with a good throw to second, and back to the bag for a double play. Nicely played by Byung-Ho Park, an inning-ending double play. But a pair of home runs for the Orioles as they open up a 5-1 lead. For the Orioles, they've done that in both games of this series. They've got a 5-1 lead. And our carsoup.com trivia question: who was the last Orioles player to win an American League batting title? Well, we know, at least some of us do, those of us who are old enough. Remember, Frank Robinson had the Triple Crown. Trevor Plouffe to lead off the bottom of the fourth, and that was back in 1966. Inside, ball one. Plouffe with a fly to center his first time up. It's been a chronic problem for the Twins. The manager, Paul Molitor, talked about it this morning. It certainly helps explain the one-loss record. There's a high fly left center field. And Jones to the gap. Rickards there, and Jones calls him off. One away. That'll bring up Sano.
Second ball in a row that Trevor has just missed hitting out of the ballpark. He was just a little bit out in front of a high breaking ball his first time up, and he just didn't quite get to that fastball, that high fastball, almost. Just missed them both.
Not only have the Twins won just a quarter of their games, but they have played an inordinate number of innings behind. They've had one game, one of their 8 wins, where they have led and had the only lead of a game. So even in the 8 wins, in 7 of them, they were at one point behind. Here's Sano lifting a pop-up that'll reach the seats. And it does kind of create, I suppose, a snowball effect for what we were talking about before, the Sanos of the world, Rosarios and Santanas, and guys who haven't been around. You don't do it intentionally, but you do put more pressure on yourself. The ball lifted to almost the same spot in the field. Jones makes a catch about 20 feet from where he caught Plouffe's ball, 2 away.
Yeah, it's really hard to play from behind virtually every night. It really is. It wears on everybody. Sure wears on the manager. I'll tell you that. The only thing that I was saying earlier about expectations, both that the fans had, the organization, the team itself had, based on the success that guys were having last year, Rosario and Sano and Dozier, for example, and you just have to expect, especially with guys like Sano and Rosario, there's going to be some growing pains in the big leagues with young kids that come up out of AA baseball. They just weren't going to. I think it was unreasonable to think that it was going to be a straight line growth of, Sano's going to hit 5 home runs and drive in 20 runs every month.
Right.
I mean, it's just not. It wasn't going to be that way. And likely not to be that way.
Strike to Park and a pop foul, 2 strikes.
But so much of the expectation, so much of the optimism, based on what you expected these kids to do, and some of the better players to do too. Brian Dozier being one.
0-2 to Byung-ho Park, and now 1-2. Well, I'll mention it now. And if the inning ends, I would like your thoughts on this in the next half inning. Whether last year's team overachieved or whether this year's team has underachieved. A strikeout, a 1-2-3 fourth, and the Orioles with a 5-1 lead.
which means 100 scratch-off tickets for a very deserving winner. This is Shannon Moran from Watertown Mayor. She is one of the teachers in charge of all these great 8th graders who came out here in the rain, braving the weather, made the homemade side, hoping to get circled by Roy Smalley. How do you keep track of all these 8th graders on a rainy day when they have no attention span whatsoever?
You know, Kevin, they're having a great time today. I'm very impressed with this group of 8th graders. Even during the national anthem, they all took off their hats. So very proud of these kids.
That's great teaching. Congratulations. You get 100 scratch-off tickets. You guys are getting circled by Roy Smalley. Make some noise. All right, guys, back to baseball. The Major League debut taking place, but this is a lot of fun up here.
All right, thank you, Kevin. His name is Pat Dean, and he's about to throw his first Major League pitch. He'll be throwing it to Caleb Joseph. And a first pitch strike. Dean from Boston College, a New Englander from Naugatuck, Connecticut. In AAA, decent numbers. The ball hit to right center field. Santana trying to track it down. Nice running catch in the gap. A ball that was slicing away from the center fielder, but Santana tracked it down, one away.
Terrific speed. That young man, he took a really nice route to the ball off. Good jump and ran exactly to the ball. Perfect. Ran it down.
One down, and that'll bring up Joey Rickard. Dean kind of emerged as a prospect last year. Some average minor league numbers until last year. His first full year in Rochester, made 27 starts, had an ERA at 2.82. There's nothing really extraordinary about his whip or anything like that. He just got people out. And now 1-1. Year before that, New Britain 8-9 with an ERA of just under 5. Gave up a .320 opponent batting average. So something clicked last year for Dean. Twins in a
where that pitch was.
Twins in a spot where they've really kind of been looking for a long reliever almost all year long. And basically Dean is replacing Tommy Malone on the roster. Poked foul. 2-2. Malone in the rotation at Rochester.
Well, I would tell you that there's something about throwing with your left hand on the mound that gives you an advantage. And if you're a left-hander,
his first major league strikeout. Rickard is retired.
If you're a left-hander that can throw strikes, you have double the advantage. And just getting people out. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, right?
Yes.
Just get them out. This will breaking ball of some kind. And Fool's a pretty good contact hitter in Joey Rickard.
He led Rochester in innings pitched last year. And now a fly ball to short right field, and Dozier makes the catch. And Pat Dean has a quick 1-2-3 first major league inning. Pepsi fan of the game got a big treat after Brian Dozier caught the final out of the top of the 5th inning. Dozier ran over and gave the young girl there the baseball. There's Eddie Rosario to start the bottom of the 5th, and this ball hooked into the right field corner. Rosario wheels around first, and he's got a double. The Twins with a leadoff home run by Sano in the 2nd. A couple of other singles, and now a leadoff double by Rosario in the 5th.
Well, be a really good inning to ambush Tyler Wilson here. Throw up a big number here real quick before Buck Showalter can think about getting into that good bullpen he's got.
And Rosario stands at second. Centeno single to left, his first time up. And a first pitch strike. The Twins meager offensive production so far. There have been very few innings where one good at bat has led directly to another one and another one and another one. Pulled foul, 2 strikes. Then there are the Cubs, who have played 31 games this year, and they have a run differential of plus 103. That's according to my Minnesota high school math. Almost 3.5 runs difference per game. Unbelievable. Off to the best start in baseball since the '84 Tigers.
Well, that differential is a result of just exactly what you want. Real good starting pitching.
Yep.
Guys hitting the ball up and down the lineup. I mean, they're just playing great.
1-2 to Centeno. Dribbler to the right side and out, and the runner advances a base, 1 away. That'll bring up Danny Santana. Another short start for Phil Hughes. 2 innings in Houston and now 4 innings today. And you add it all up, that's carrying 1. 11 innings, 15 earned runs, and 5 home runs. Last year, numbers weren't very good. And then later, at a 10-5 mark with an ERA in the low 4s. Here's Danny Santana, corner infielders up with Rosario at third, 1 away. Popped up, backing out of play. Santana with a ground ball to short his first time up.
You know, that swing right there is kind of in a microcosm, the difference between these two teams. If Danny got a high change up there, I mean, right stomach high, belt high, stomach high, terrible pitch. He popped it up. Whereas the Twins are just getting those pitches. There's another one right there, 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Danny, we've seen Danny handle plenty of times. I'm not picking on Danny. Up and down the Twins lineup, they're getting pitches to hit and not doing much with them. Whereas a team like the Orioles, when they get a mistake, there's a hittable pitch right there. Just not doing anything with it.
Up and away, 1-2.
We watch the Orioles look bad on really quality pitches, and then they get a mistake, and the ball goes a long ways.
Davis with a home run. Trumbo with 2 of them. 1-2 to Santana. Jacked his swing, we think. No swing, and it's 2-2. Wilson now with a bigger lead in his last start at home against the Yankees. 6 innings, 2 earned runs. Ooh, that was close.
Yeah, could have been called. I don't think he could have argued too much if it had been gone the other way either. You saw Caleb Joseph, the catcher, call for the breaking ball and then put his palms down toward the ground, throw it down. They thought they had a chance of getting Danny to chase that pitch.
Base hit to right. And Rosario scores. It's 5-2. Santana with an RBI single.
So good at bat by Danny. He laid off the ball that gives him trouble. He'll swing at that ball that goes down toward his back foot, that slider. But then Wilson came back with one that stayed kind of in the middle of the plate, and Danny able to handle that one.
Fox Tracks presented by Dodge. There's Mauer, a single to left and a liner to left. Rickard made a nice running catch towards the corner.
See if Joe can stay hot here and really put some heat on Tyler Wilson. It's only a 3-run ball game. The Twins are still in it, only 1 out. Joe gets a hitter, gets on base somehow, and all of a sudden the pitcher's going to start feeling it just a little bit. This is the time when you said the Twins really haven't put a whole bunch of at-bats together, and if they can do it this inning, they're going to jump right back here in this ball game.
Speed at first. Santana's been checked once over there. And again. The Twins have tried to step up the running game this year, and they have. But then given what we were saying before, so many times they've been behind as they are now by 3 runs. And it's a little bit easier to run the bases aggressively when you're playing with the lead instead of with a deficit all the time.
Exactly right.
Mauer takes a strike on the outside corner. 19 steals for the Twins in 26 tries. Just under what would be a really good team-wide stolen base percentage, 75%. If you're, as a team, stealing at a 75% success rate, well, that's pretty good. Up high, and it's 1-1. Santana is 6 for 10.
I actually think Danny's had a couple of bases stolen that he cost himself with headfirst slides that were inefficient. He kind of went into headfirst slide, and his reach arm backed up a little bit, or else he'd have the base stolen.
Yeah. Were you always a feet first slider?
Yeah, yeah, when I was a base stealer.
Well, or no, single into a double,
yeah,
whatever.
That happened a lot more often, and I was a stand-up slide guy. I always felt like that stand-up slide was the fastest way to get there because your leg was fully extended and you went. That was going into the base the very hardest, fastest that you could, and still remain on the base, right? So I would slide hard into the front of the base with my front foot and stand up as I hit the base.
2-1 to Mauer.
Tough to do that as a base stealer. You don't stand up slide as a base stealer.
Tapper foul. 2-2. Paul Molitor said yesterday this whole notion of Mauer batting leadoff spot. Twins are facing a run of right-handed batters. That factored into it a little bit. Right-handed pitchers, I should say. Starting pitchers. Although Joe in his career has typically hit left-handers about as well as righties. And Santana might have been leaning towards second there, but he got back. Two and two.
So like a changeup. Throw it at least knee high.
Well, Santana got a running start. Joseph has no chance to get Santana, and the throw may have hit him. Santana looking over at Machado like the throw may have hit the runner. It's a stolen base for Santana. He got a running start from first base, and Joseph had no chance to throw him out.
Well, that one you just put in your pocket. No chance to get him. It looked like Machado just kind of batted the ball away. Yeah, just went off his finger of his glove.
Full count to Mauer. Nunez on deck. Target is inside. Bauer takes ball 4. They'll get Nunez to the plate representing the tying run. Twins are trying to turn up the volume, if you will, on Tyler Wilson here in the 5th inning. Nunez with a couple of flies to right field.
Seen it happen a lot. See, pitchers, especially young pitchers, have a little trouble getting through the 5th inning. You know, they have that big win looking them in the face if they can get through 5. I've seen it happen a lot where all of a sudden, if a team can start putting a little heat on the pitcher, things get a little bit tighter.
Wilson in his first major league start, or the first start of the 2016 season, I should say, went exactly 5 innings in Kansas City, and the Orioles beat the Royals. Nunez represents the tying run. Missing inside, ball 1.
This is a big at bat right here for both the Twins and for Tyler Wilson. If the Twins can get through this at bat successfully, they've got a chance to really have a big inning. This is an important at bat for Nunez.
Chopper towards Machado. Out there. Out at first, a double play. Nice play in the hole by Machado. A strong throw to second, starting a 6-4-3 inning-ending double play. A play like this is the best example.
Oh, this is a big league double play right here. Nice, strong throw from Machado. But watch this turn by Scope. Gets rid of it quickly and just fires it over to get a speedy Nunez.
And so on to the 6th, and Adam Jones will face Pat Dean. Dean had a 1-2-3 major league debut in the 5th inning. Because it was his debut, I didn't follow up and ask you to discuss your thoughts on the thought I threw out an inning or so ago. And I'll give you my thought on it right away. This team has won 25% of its games, and they obviously have underachieved. But I don't think that should necessarily mean that last year's team overachieved. There's a base hit skipping past Nunez into left field. Leadoff single for Adam Jones.
Well, it's a good way to amplify what I was saying before about the inevitability of young kids and everybody in baseball going through difficult times as they become the players they're going to be. I don't think they overachieved at all last year. I think everything that we saw from the players that contributed to their 83 wins last year are indicative of the way those players can and will eventually play on a consistent basis, in my view. So I think they're underachieving this year. I think there are asterisks about that. There's, why are they underachieving? Well, Rosario and Sano are underachieving at the moment because they haven't had 600 bats in the big leagues yet, right? And they're underachieving on the mound a little bit because their number 1 and number 2 starters went down, and their closer went down. I mean, they've had some issues besides the fact that they haven't played all that well.
Drive to left field and off the wall. Rosario finds it. Jones around third. He'll score on a double off the wall, and then I think off Rosario in left field. Chris Davis with a single, a home run, now a double, and it's 6-1. 6-2, excuse me. And the Orioles may ask that the umpires review this and see whether the ball left the ballpark. Hit the corner. It looked like that ball hit the corner just as Joe Mauer's did in the last homestand. So I don't think this will take very long with the umpires. Greg Gibson to the left. Part of the review here.
Yeah, manager's got to do this for not only because he wants to guarantee.
It may have hit the concrete or the fence.
It's going to be hard to tell. I'll be interested to see what the replay officials think that did. Buck Showalter wanting that extra run if he can get it, but also wanting for his home run slugger. He didn't want a home run not to be counted if it was in fact a home run.
Showing it on the video board here. You can see Davis squinting to try to see whether he inched that ball over the wall. Take another look at it. Frame by frame.
I don't see how they'll overrule it. I mean,
well, I'm going to get very use some minutia here. Watch the ball, and it comes off the carom with topspin, and that suggests to me that it may have hit something beyond the padding and come back onto the field of play. It may have hit the gate area there above the padded wall.
Yeah, I see all that, and I agree with you, and I just wonder if the replay officials are going to say, "Yep, I saw topspin," or it's a home run. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what they're gonna see. I guess I couldn't argue it either way.
So the call on the field is double, and will there be enough topspin to call this a home run? To me, if it hits the corner of the wall, then it's going to have backspin as it comes back on the field. So there's a little separation there between that gated area and the top of the padded wall. And we'll see what they determine. A double, not enough topspin. And Buck Showalter will try to find out from Greg Gibson why it was not ruled a home run. And someone who was in search of an explanation. I think Showalter did most of the talking there.
I don't understand those conversations afterwards. These umpires are just taking their cue from somebody in New York. I don't know what Buck could be griping about. But
here's Trumbo. He's hit 2 home runs. 2-minute 44-second delay to put Davis at second base. There's a pitch outside. Dean had a 1-2-3 fifth, but now immediate trouble here in the sixth. Swing and a miss.
Now once again, that curveball, breaking ball, whatever kind of breaking ball it is from Pat Dean has been really effective down there where Trumbo just swung over the top of it. Rickard did that as well. But he threw one up in the zone to Chris Davis, and it was almost a home run. It just evidence of what. Oh.
Park will look at this pop up. It spins into the seats.
That was one of the few uh-ohs that the Orioles did not hit for a long home run. He's been pretty good on the road.
Immense power, and when the Orioles signed him, a lot of people imagined him doing a lot of damage at Oriole Park in Camden Yards. It was very much a hitter's ballpark, especially when the weather warms up.
But if he hits well on the road, he's going to have some kind of good year.
Liner to left, and Rosario makes the catch. One away. We'll bring up Nolan Rimo. Twins have only seen the Orioles out of the American League East, and they have to be impressed with the Orioles winning the first 4 games, and they've all been decided by a run or two, which is absolutely no consolation to Twins fans.
No.
Understandable. When you've lost 24 games in your first 32, margin of defeat is hardly a consolation.
Yeah, there aren't any moral victories here. I mean, nobody's thinking about it in those terms at all. This is hard on a manager and hard on a ball club to, I think they would say, underachieve like they're doing right now. I'm just saying that there are some reasons for it. Not to be too surprised, but some tough streaks for some players.
And again, you've got to walk a fine line between excuse making and trying to figure out why this has happened. And what we've seen here today, and we've shown the numbers, Rosario and Sano struggling, but now each has an extra base hit. I think there's probably less concern for players like that than there are for instance, what happened to Phil Hughes here today. Another short start, and the 5 earned runs allowed. This is the Twins pitching staff that was supposed to be led by veterans: Velasco, Santana, Hughes, and to somewhat of a lesser extent Kyle Gibson, but he's on the disabled list. 2-2 to Rimo. I think for Twins fans, their interest is more peaked now when Jose Barrios starts or Tyler Duffy than when some of the veterans are starting.
You watch this Orioles team hit too. I think it's even more impressive the outing that Barrios had, even though it was only 5 innings. I really felt like he only made one bad pitch, a hanging breaking ball to Adam Jones. Other than that, it's a very close ball game, and he made really good Oriole hitters look really, really silly a lot of the time. I think he's going to be. I was talking with Tim Lauderdale the day before the game, as we all were, and Timmy said to me, it was his 3rd start, for gosh sakes, not his 33rd. Right. Timmy makes the correct point.
1-out walk, filling first base, and that'll bring up Scope. May 19th is Star Wars Night at Target Field. A limited number of Star Wars Night themed ticket packages are available that include a game ticket and a Plouffe Skywalker bobblehead. Go to twinsbaseball.com/Star Wars to learn more about the Star Wars Night offer. The gentleman sitting in the booth next to us, Jim Palmer, Hall of Fame pitcher, was impressed with Barrios last night. Liked the way he used both sides of the plate. Was able to command his fastball for most of the night last night. And to some would summarize with Jim Palmerson, he's going to be a really good major league pitcher.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that's true.
But there will be starts that will not look good. Up and away. I guess the way the manager put it, Paul Molitor, is the best way to summarize what he's displayed so far. He's already proven that this is the manager's term, his stuff plays up here. Swing and a foul. We've seen him get big league hitters out with all of his pitches.
Right. And we've seen really good big league hitters look really silly. I mean, they look really not comfortable against him as well. And I think that's the thing that I look at is the comfort of the hitters in the box. And I don't see any comfort. I see some hits and some home runs, but I don't see pitch to pitch comfort up there the hitters. And that's I think indicative of he's just going to get better and better in terms of the mistakes that he doesn't make, because when he doesn't make them, that stuff in the strike zone is really good.
Dean in the 6th inning trying to do a little damage control here after the single and double to start the inning. 1 down, 2-2 to the batter, and a foul back. Orioles with 8 hits, two of them this inning against Dean. Called third strike. Scope retired for out number 2, and Dean has his 2nd strikeout.
Good pitch right there. Good little running fastball right on the outside corner, the low outside corner. And that's just one of those times where you tip your hat to the pitcher and say, "Yep, you can't hit everything." That's the one I'm certainly not going to hit.
Using the putty knife to clear his spikes. And here's Ryan Flair. Strikeout and a ground ball double play. Started nicely by Byung-Ho Park. Finished nicely. He got back to the bag in time to get Flaherty, who runs pretty well down the line. Missing the outside corner, ball 1.
I've been impressed with Park at first base. His actions over there are like he's very, very comfortable. He's been around the block. Has made a lot of plays and knows what he's doing. I don't think the manager has too many qualms about spelling Joe at first base with Park.
2-0. He's looked very fluid and comfortable over there.
Well, you talk about a learning curve, trying to come directly from the Korean baseball league to the major leagues. That's a learning curve.
In an otherwise dismal season, that might be the bright spot for the Twins organization, what he has done in his first 5 weeks in the big leagues. A lot of strikeouts, but that's part of his game. But I think that the Twins, who were going to allow for the fact that the struggles were going to be so bad that Park himself might have to start in the minor leagues, brought him with the club to start the season. And he's been one of the bright spots in a lineup that has really struggled to hit home runs and score runs. Michael Tonkin warming up. See if Dean can get out of this 6th inning with just the 1 run allowed. And a walk will load the bases and bring Caleb Joseph to the plate. Guessing Dean has one more batter to finish up the 6th inning here. Couple of hits, couple of walks here in the 6th. Joseph with a liner to right, a fly ball to center.
I'm thinking this trip right here might be a Tonkin needs 5 more pitches trip. I'm not sure that Paul Molitor's going to let Pat Dean pitch to this hitter if Tonkin's ready. We'll see.
Neil Allen with a trip to the mound. And now Tom Woodring heading out there. Tell Neil Allen that your 30 seconds are almost up. And Dean will have one more batter.
Yep.
Joseph got one to hit, didn't hit it. Joseph, number 9 hitter, but he's somebody to pay attention to. 49 runs batted in last year, 320 at bats, 11 home runs. He needs to be careful here. Chop foul, 2 strikes.
That's why I think if Tonkin had been ready, I just don't think he was quite ready. I think if he had been ready, pretty good chance he would have pitched to Joseph.
Twins trying to stay in the fringes of this game at 6-2. Dean gets ahead of 0-2. Another pitch up, foul back. Dean leaves them full. Couple of hits, another run for the Orioles, but they leave the bases full. And when the Twins hit in the 6th inning, Brian Dozier will lead things off. Triple Crown, perhaps, maybe a batting title. So the Carsoup.com trivia question: who was the last Oriole player to win an American League batting title? We mentioned Frank Robinson back in 1966. Tony Oliva finished second. Tony winning 3 batting titles, but he finished second so many times, including in 1968 when Carl Yastrzemski won the batting title with a .301 batting average. He was the only batter in the American League to hit 300 that year. Tony was second at .289. Well, Wilson got a big double play grounder to wrap up the 5th, and now leading by 4 runs, the Orioles will entrust him with at least the start of the 6th inning. Rain has stopped. It's still very cool, and more rain is coming. And the Twins know full well about this Oriole bullpen. Makes life very difficult after the 6th inning. It'll be Dozier, Plouffe, and Sano hitting against Wilson. pitch count still really good, as you see. Just 71 pitches over 5 innings. And Dozier makes a strike. Were you able to, if you had been shifted like this as Dozier is now, of course you were a switch hitter, so it was either easier or more difficult for you because you had to try to have bat control from both sides of the plate. But would you have been able to beat the shift and hit the ball to the opposite field?
Well, I'd been trying, and there would be some times that I'd hit through the shift if I could, and sometimes the situation would call for me to try to hit it over there and beat the shift.
Pop up near the second base bag.
But I will tell you that if I were not swinging well, I would definitely I wouldn't just hit, you know, ground ball after ground ball into where guys were standing. I wouldn't try to. Not that I could do it every time. That man right there would not have stood for them shifting him like that. He'd have bunted the ball hard through the right side and gotten a running double. He'd have done something.
Probably would have finished with 4,300 hits instead of 3,300.
Maybe.
One strike to Trevor Plouffe. Couple of outfield flies to center field.
I mean, there are times it depends on the kind of hitter you are and how the pitcher is going to try to pitch you. It's really hard if they're going to put 3 guys on your pull side and then pitch you inside with fastballs and breaking balls. I mean, it's really hard to hit the ball the other way if they're going to pitch you that way. So it's not automatic that you can just hit it over there. On the other hand, if you're not swinging and if you're swinging well, if I was swinging well and they were going to try to pitch me inside, you know, I might hit the ball in the ballpark to my pull field. So I can't just completely go away from my game. But if I weren't swinging well, definitely I'd back off the plate, try to make the ball be a little bit more away from me and hit the ball the other way.
Inside now 3-1 with Sano on deck. High fly left field. And Rickard with the catch. 2 down. It's Miguel Sano's 23rd birthday today. And for more on that, let's go to Kevin Gordon.
Yeah, it was fun to catch up with him this morning in the clubhouse. I wished him happy birthday and asked if he had any big plans for the night. And he said, no celebrations tonight. I'm getting too old for that. I just want to hit the ball hard today. Well, he did just that in the second inning. His 4th home run of the year, and his home runs have a special sound and look to them. I got a good chuckle out of the fact that he thinks he's getting too old for celebrations, guys. I'm not sure where that leaves the rest of us.
I am.
At age 23, he's too old to celebrate birthdays. All I can say is good thing Bert's not here to hear that. 1-0 to Sano. Solo home run in the second inning, breaking a home run drought that lasted about 2.5 weeks. This one hit to right center field. Drifting back is Reimold. A 1-2-3-6 for Tyler Wilson. Oriole power.
Well, they can hit him. In the second inning, Mark Trumbull went 431 feet off the facing of the second deck. In the bottom of the same inning, Miguel Sano would hit one just shy of that. Fourth inning, Chris Davis with a blast, and then Mark Trumbull back to back. These Oriole hitters can go yard.
And Pat Dean can go another inning. At least that's the determination made by Neil Allen, Paul Molitor. Dean is out there to face Joey Rickard, Manny Machado, and Adam Jones. Rickard struck out swinging his first time up against Dean. If you just joined us, Phil Hughes went 4 innings, gave up 3 home runs and 5 earned runs. Down and away. The biggest issue for Dean in the game in the 6th inning wasn't the single and the double, although that led to the Oriole run, but the walks to Reimold and Flaherty. And he misses inside. It's 3-0.
That's the reason, frankly, those walks that I thought Paul Molitor might go to Michael Tonkin out of the bullpen to pitch to Caleb Joseph. Not so much the fact that Dean was not being effective, but that Orioles putting balls in play, but then he walked a couple of guys to get himself in that kind of bases loaded trouble.
Tampa to short. Nunez charge and a double clutch cost him an out. Nunez didn't get a clean handle on the ball, and by the time he threw to Park, Rickard himself an infield hit.
Part of Rickard's game is his speed. He gets out of there really, really well down the line. Nunez short hops it nicely, but then didn't have a grip of the ball that he wanted. That extra step was all Rickard's speed needed. Watch him get out of the box here. He runs really, really well from the right side.
You know what I liked about that? He put his head down and ran straight to the bag. He didn't look to see what was happening. He ran as hard as he could to the bag and just focused on his destination. One strike to
worth
Machado.
At least a half a step.
You see that from time to time, regularly. In fact, Kyle get a ground ball, say, to the left side, and as they're running down the line, they're looking to see whether the shortstop's or third baseman's playing the ball properly and cleanly. 1-1. Machado 0 for 3. Something that seemed hard to fathom just last night. And now 2-1.
When I think about guys in baseball running down the first base line, I think of 100-meter dash sprinters, and there's 2 things I never see those guys do. I never see them look to the side, and I never see them dive at the tape.
It's to left center field, and Rosario tracking it, making the catch, 1 away. Bring up Adam Jones. You can follow Twins baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Twins and stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast news, and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Jones with a pair of singles and a pair of runs scored. Strike at the knees. Mentioned that Pat Dean is here when the Twins sent Tommy Milone through waivers and then assigned him to Rochester. Milone started and won a ball game yesterday. Outside. And I don't think we, as viewers of the Major League Club, have seen the last of Tommy Milone in a Twins uniform. I can see perhaps Milone doing well down there as he did last year in May and getting called up. And then with, depending on how the season goes, obviously, if it continues to go as it has, I can see a contending team, needs some back of the rotation help, wanting to acquire Tommy Milone, who still has a winning record in the big leagues. 2-1. And now 3-1.
I think the Twins and Tommy Milone are in a tough spot, frankly. I really do. Yeah, I think you're right in everything that you just said, but I think implicit in that statement is that if Tommy's back here, that means somebody they're counting on pretty heavily in the rotation is not doing well, and that's not exactly what they want.
Fox Tracks presented by Carey. If the Twins are going to make the commitment to Barrios to give him a spot in the rotation, there's one spot.
Right.
Tyler Duffy's pitched well. There's another spot. And then you have veterans: Velasco, Hughes, Santana. That's a ball hit fair down the left field line. Rickard rounds second on his way to third, and the throw going to second base, holding Jones to another single, and just as importantly, holding Rickard at third base. Remember in the White Sox series, the White Sox sent the runner, and a ball was hit to the left field corner. The throw went to second base, and Joe McEwing, the third base coach, sent the runner home. They got an extra run on a ball that was hit to the left field corner.
There's another hanging breaking ball to Adam Jones. We keep throwing him those. He's got a home run and 2 singles on breaking balls in the middle of the plate now.
Davis, a triple short of the cycle. How many times is...
I don't even know if I want to see him try to get a triple.
Hit a double off the very top of the wall in left field his last time up. Clobbered a home run almost out of the plaza in right field in the fourth, and then singled and scored in the second. One and one. Dean left the bases full in the sixth. The only 3 men left on base for the Orioles this afternoon. And now 1-2. Ready to come in if needed. Nice pickup out there. Return throw, not in time. Davis beat it out, and a run will score. Park stepped across the bag, and Paul Molitor's contemplating a challenge here. Park stepped across the bag to make the catch.
Well, first of all, it's a terrific pick here. Makes a very, very nice play. And actually now this is smart. If he's not going to go home, he's got to go try to get the double play out to second base first and then get the batter runner. If he steps on first, it's a tag play and the runner scores automatically. The only question would have been whether or not Park should have checked home first. I do not think he could have gotten the Speedy Rickard at home plate. So a really good attempt. And smart thinking by Byung-ho Park.
Paul Molitor coming out not for a challenge but for a pitching change. Davis just got his foot on the bag ahead of the throw. Park turned 1 to 3-6-3 double play, but unable to start this one. Pat Dean comes in his major league debut and gives up a couple of runs in 2 2/3 innings. Damage here. Michael Tonkin trying to put out the fire here with 2 gone in the 7th.
Michael Tonkin pitching well so far this season. Is throwing hard and is getting his breaking ball over. That was always been what the Twins staff has wanted him to come up with, a breaking ball that he could use for strikes effectively. He's had a bit of that this year and had some success with it.
Tonkin will face Martin Trumbo, who has 2 home runs and a liner to left field. Orioles with 3 home runs in the ball game, 2 last night, 6 on Sunday in their series finale at Camden Yards. And a strike over the inside corner. Opponent batting average that you saw, just 203.
There's the breaking ball that he has come up with, and it's not enough just to have a breaking ball that you show hitters once in a while. You have to impress a hitter that you might be able to throw it for a strike in a tough spot, or they just sit on the fastball and don't even have another thought in their mind. Whoa. Oh my goodness, what was that?
94 miles per hour. And right, I think, where Trumbo wanted to put it. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean that's a strike 3 right there, right?
No wonder Mark Trumbo's hitting 320.
Well, that'll help the cause.
There's a half swing and they'll appeal. Nope. 2-2. Orioles puzzled a lot of people in baseball with the power-laden lineup they had last year, and they invested heavily in more power rather than starting pitching. 3-2 now. Getting Trumbo, and then later Pedro Alvarez, who's not in the lineup tonight. Former Twin minor league manager John Russell, the bench coach for Buck Showalter, standing next to him. Lifted to right, and Sano is under it. And that ends the 7th inning. Another run for the Orioles, and they lead it 7-2. Orioles trying to make it 5 in a row over the Twins. And today's T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball, looking at some other scores. The Cubs leading the Padres 4-2. Had rain out the other day, so doubleheader. And the White Sox leading the Rangers 4-2. Cleveland leading Houston 1-0. Matinee baseball in the bigs. And it's 7-2 here. Young Oak Park will lead things off. Wilson still out there. Why not? Just 81 pitches. And he's had 3 1-2-3 innings, including the 6th. It'll be Park, Rosario, and Centeno. Outside 2-0. And a strike that covers the inside corner. Although that Park agrees. 2-1. To the right field corner. Long run for Rybold. And he gets there. 1 away. Park 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts today. And that'll bring up Rosario.
Rosario with a double his last time up. Got a breaking ball in the middle of the plate. Hit it down the right field line. Looking for some kind of spark for this kid. Just to get him going again.
Here's a guy who runs pretty well, and yet the Orioles are giving him a base hit.
And if I were he, I would take it. I would square around. I would bunt the ball toward third, and you could trot down to first base.
Yesterday, I know Oswaldo Arcia came out for some early bunting practice to do just that. Arcia is shifted in similar fashion. And if you're going to have a slugger like Arcia, maybe the ball chipped down the left field line. Rickard with a long run. Oh, what a catch! Joey Rickard with a diving catch in the grass in foul territory. 2 away.
Wow, terrific play by Rickard. Rosario pops up. He's got a long run. I mean, a long run, and then dives and catches it right off the ground. Watch where his glove is. Watch how close to the ground his glove is when he gets to it, right there.
And to make sure the ball didn't roll out, he got his throwing hand in to close up the glove.
See if Tyler Wilson reacting to that catch. It was a 7-2 game in the 7th inning. See a guy busting it like that. The pitcher appreciates it. The manager really appreciates it. All his teammates are impressed. That's good to see.
2 strikes now to Centeno. There's a single and a ground ball to second.
Look at this pitch count by inning for Tyler Wilson. Why he hadn't thrown very many pitches. Twins had him on the as close as they would get to him on the ropes in the 5th inning. And just couldn't get to one more hit. Warren Nunez hit a double play to take him out of that inning. That was the inning it looked like if they had a chance to get to him, it was going to happen.
Had scored once, had runners at the first and second, and 1 down. And Machado went into the hole and started a nifty double play. 1-2. Wilson was impressive in a relief role on opening day. And he's been impressive here this afternoon. Granted, the Twins lineup isn't exactly functioning at a high level these days, but you have 1, 2, 3 innings. You are handed an early lead. You manage the game well enough to maybe complete 7, maybe even 8 innings. Crack foul. Still 1-2.
Well, he hadn't walked anybody. That's it. You know, he's made a team that is not swinging the bat well anyway as a group.
I got him walking Bauer in the 5th. That's the only walk, I believe.
Right. Missed that one. Yep, he did walk Joe. Of course, hard not to walk Joe at least once in the ball game.
And Centeno pulls a base hit to right. He's got a couple of hits, and then we'll get Santana to the plate. So far in the 5 games with the Orioles, the Twins have scored a total of 11 runs. Now they got 7 more outs at least left in this game. See what Santana can do here. An RBI single his last time up. Strike 1. And a ball hit on the ground to Scope. Over to first. Santana retired. And we head to the 8th inning with the Orioles in control of this game. 7-2. Joey Rickard with a fine play for the
On Friday night as the Twins kick off a series with their Central Division rival Cleveland Indians. Join us Friday night at 5:30 here on Fox Sports North. And now, let's go back to baseball.
Indians survived a terrible stretch of games, including their stop here in Minnesota, where they lost a whole bunch of late one-run ball games, including a couple of walk-off wins for the Twins here at Target Field. And they're 5 games back, but they're in second place in the division. First pitch from Tonkin, and Reibold serves it to center field, a leadoff single in the 8th. In that series, the Twins will send Ricky Nolasco, Irvin Santana, and Tyler Duffy to the mound against Josh Tomlin, Corey Kluber, and Trevor Bauer.
Josh Tomlin 5-0.
With a 3.72 ERA. The Cleveland lineup hasn't really produced a whole lot of runs, and he's pitched well enough to pick up 5 wins. And this is, you know, there's so many different ways to illustrate the disappointment of the season for the Twins. One of them is, Roy, this is May 11th. And Twins starters, all of them, have a total of 3 wins. Barrios has 1. Nolasco has 1. And Phil Hughes has 1. Popped up, it'll reach the seats. I mean, this is May 11th.
Yeah.
Jordan Zimmerman has 6. Chris Sale has 7. Zimmerman has just 5. I'm sorry. Foul back. 1-2. And a tapper foul.
I just got to say, I mean, when a team's 8-24, there's going to be all kinds of ugly stats. Like, I mean, there's a reason why, you know, right? I mean, it just is. They just haven't played well, and we're going to hope that at some point in time that guys start playing up to their capabilities and things change.
And a chopper foul off of Scope's foot or leg. As a team, a batting average of .236. The league average is .249. Twins with a team ERA now worst in the American League, 4.72 coming into the game. The league average 3.96. Half swing. Did he go? Nope. Flaherty on deck. And a high tight fastball strikes out Scope, 1 away. An off day tomorrow, technically a travel day, as the Twins will fly to Cleveland, and it'll be Nolasco against Tomlin, Santana against Kluber, and Duffy against Bauer. The Indians in the middle of the pack in terms of pitching. If anything, they're disappointed with that. They thought that Carrasco, Salazar, Kluber, and others would be pitching a little bit better than they have. 3.73 ERA. That's nearly a full run less than the Twins, however. To left field, hanging in the air for Rosario. 2 down.
Well, 2 years in a row, the Cleveland Indians being picked by a lot of people to win the division on the strength, the basis of that starting pitching. It hasn't worked quite yet.
And it's the Twins in Cleveland. Saturday's game will be on FS1. The action begins at 3 p.m. Central on FS1 or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Caleb Joseph, the batter. And a strike. Joseph 0 for 3. Because of the rain out here Monday night, the Orioles will have to make a return trip here to Minnesota towards the end of July 28th. Twins announced the game time for that yesterday. It'll be a 6 o'clock start. The Orioles finish a homestand the day before. They'll fly here. Drilled to the left field corner. Joseph has his first hit. Reimold around second, on his way to third, and they're going to hold him up. It is a double for Caleb Joseph. So the Orioles will fly here for one game, and then after the 6 o'clock start, whenever the game ends, they have to fly to Toronto. They've had 4 games postponed because of rain this year.
Pretty good fastball down and in from Michael Tonkin to Caleb Joseph. Opened up and ripped it down the left field line. You could tell by the way he took the first 2 breaking ball strikes that he was open a little quickly and looking for the ball inside. He looked very full on the breaking balls, and then you could see why. He was looking. He wanted that ball right down in there where he got it.
Joey Rickard, single and a run scored his last time up. Split his season last year between A, AA, and AAA. And in AA and AAA, total of just over 300 at bats. He hit about 340 in those 2 stops. And the Orioles saw enough that they picked him up in the Rule 5 draft. I don't know if the prices have changed or not. I should check on that. It used to be it was $50,000 to acquire a player in the Rule 5 draft, and if he didn't stick with you, you had to offer him back to the original club for half of that.
For half of it,
which
right.
I believe is $25,000.
Well, that math is right. I don't know if the if the numbers still stand the way they are.
So it really is an inexpensive look by today's standards, an inexpensive look at a player that's piqued your interest. You bring him into your camp, you see how he fits, how he plays, and whether it's someone you want to make a commitment to on the 25-man roster for the full season. Swing and a miss, and Tonkin strands a couple of runners in the 8th.
Seven to 2 as the Twins come to bat in the bottom of the 8th. Stay with us directly after the game for Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. We'll take a look at the Birds breaking out. It wasn't Manny Machado today. The guys right behind him, Messrs. Jones and Davis, have wreaked havoc with the Minnesota Twins pitching. Speaking of pitching, another short start for Phil Hughes. We'll definitely want to hear from the pitcher and find out what Roy Smalley and Tim Laudner have to say about that. And we'll bring you inside the Twins clubhouse and hear from the manager, Paul Molitor. Guys, top of the order. Twins need 5 here in the next 2 at-bats to tie this thing up.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Michael Gibbons comes out of the Oriole pen to pitch to the Twins in the bottom of the 8th inning, starting with Joe Mauer.
Very interesting delivery we saw in Baltimore to open the season. And Michael Gibbons, kind of a side slinger.
One strike to Mauer. Nunez and Dozier will follow. Inside 1-1. Two and 1.
I'm just laughing at batters and pitchers and catchers' reactions to various ball or strike calls by umpires.
Joseph didn't want to throw the ball back to the mound after that last call. And that is line to left. Beauty. And Mauer has a base hit leading off the 8th.
Oh, you gotta love ugly hits.
Joe with a couple of singles and a walk. The only time he was retired, he had a liner to the corner caught by Rickard.
Ball down and in. Joe just kind of fights it off. Flares it down the left field line. They had him obviously shifted in the infield around quite a bit.
7th hit for the Twins. Nunez is 0 for 3.
So we talk about the shift a lot, and we talk about the reason they shift is because of what the charts and computers say about where guys hit ground balls. That will go down in the charts as a line drive, and it will not influence the shift that much. What I mean by that is the third baseman was playing way off the line, and the line drive that will show as a line drive down the left field line, and the manager or the sabermetricians will look at that and say, well, we can't play a third baseman over there just to stop a line drive. We're talking about ground balls that we're trying to stop. Joe will get a lot of hits there through that shift because of that.
Off the end of the bat, foul, 2 strikes. Nunez with a couple of fly balls to right, then he bounced into a big double play. Kinsler getting loose in the Twins bullpen. Nunez lifts it foul into the seats. Oh, 2. Givens to Nunez. And he goes upstairs and foul ball off the bat of Nunez. Paid attendance 25,094. A lot of school kids here. Came in mid-morning. There were already a lot of school buses coming in on 94 from various parts of Twins territory. Down and away, 1-2. That's to right. Reimold with the catch, 1 away.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Minnesota Twins, LLC.
Dozier, the batter, 0 for 3. A fly to left, a liner to left, and a pop up behind second base. With a man aboard, the Orioles don't put a shift on for Dozier in this at bat. One strike. And now 2 strikes. It rained for a while. Second and third inning, I guess. But precipitation really hasn't been as much of a factor as we feared. Doesn't mean that after the game it might not rain a bunch. 1-2. Getting a run on the second on a Sano home run, and then Santana with a single driving in Rosario in the 4th. Dozier strikes out, 2 down. And now Trevor Plouffe. 0 for 3 today, 3 outfield flies.
Sidearm delivery here from Givens, and he throws a sweeping breaking ball. Brian recognized fastball right away, started to try to pull that ball, broke away and slowed down. He missed it.
And Plouffe with a base hit left center field. Bauer will round second and go to third. And we'll have 2 men aboard now for Miguel Sano. Sano hit a home run on his first swing as a 23-year-old He took 4 pitches and then clobbered the 5th. Pitch up and in, far away from the target.
And went far away from the plate.
That cut the Oriole lead at the time to 2-1. Ball 1. How many home runs did you hit in your career?
163,
okay.
I think.
All right, enough to know that it's nice for a slugger like Sano to get that feel back. I mean, did you feel home runs like when you were in a home run groove? You just kind of had that feel of what it felt like. And
yeah, absolutely.
Consciously or subconsciously, it's got to help Sano to have hit one, doesn't it?
Yeah, and generally speaking, when a home run hitter breaks through and hits one after not hitting some for a while, then they come in a bunch right away. I don't know if Sano is there yet. He's not swinging the bat. He's not real sharp yet, like we've seen him.
1-2. 2-2. Again down and away. Sano got one middle of the plate and fouled it back.
That was a pitch right there. You can see Sano a little bit frustrated walking around. He knows that's about as close to the perfect spot for him as he's going to get a fastball.
To the left field corner, Rickard makes a nice running catch, a fair ball catch to close out the 8th, leaving 2 men aboard. It has not been a good day for the Twins. Again, they're trailing 7-2 as we go to the 9th inning. Brandon Kintzler will come in to pitch to the Orioles. Twins 3 outs away from suffering their 25th loss of the season. Kintzler comes in, had a good Twins debut in Chicago on Saturday. And he'll face Machado, Jones, and Davis. First pitch strike. Kinsler called up. Essentially replacing Casey Fien, the right-handed relief corps. Around the hands, 1-1. Fien picked up by the Dodgers and then assigned to their AAA team. And Kinsler falls down and he's okay. Mound looks like it's pretty dry with that.
You can say diamond dust.
Diamond dust, turfus, kitty litter, whatever.
Yeah, he's just stumbled in the landing area there.
Ground ball up the middle, and Machado has his first hit. He hit the ball in the air 4 times for outs. Now on the ground for a base hit. And that'll bring up Adam Jones. Jones with 3 singles in a row. Came into this little 2-game series with a .200 batting average and jumped up 31 points. You've probably had good starts, bad starts, but at this time of the year you can make up for a bad start awfully quickly if you just put together a couple of multi-hit games.
Yep, that's exactly right. You sure don't like getting off to a bad start and looking at 186 up on the scoreboard, and if you can help it. Let's throw him another hanging breaking ball.
A 2-run home run for Adam Jones. It is the 4th Oriole home run today. That was a breaking ball?
I think that was a spinner there. Let's see.
Home run.
Yep. I said earlier I was convinced, and I still am. He can hit the hanging breaking ball.
And just to prove you right, we continue to throw them to him.
Let's just make sure.
9-2. And a bouncing ball beating the shift. Davis will round first and try for second.
Go to third.
Well, Plouffe running across to cover third base.
I don't know. I might have tried it. He just needed a trade. It was just a triple short of the cycle.
Yeah. A 4-hit game for Davis. Kinsler's having a tough go of it here. Single, home run, double, and now Trumbo. Trumbo with a pair of home runs, his first 2 at bats. And time called.
3, 4, 5 guys in the Oriole lineup, accounting for all 9 runs, driving in all 9 runs. Kind of the way you would draw up your lineup if you had a choice.
Soft liner and Nunez with the catch, 1 away. I think what we knew going into this series, the Twins weren't pitching well. And when you're not doing that, you're not executing pitches, and they're taking on a lineup in this 2-game series where if you can't execute your pitches, you will pay a very heavy price. And the Twins have done that. Just 5 runs by today's standards. That's not all that bad, but really some key mistakes made in the pitching department last night, allowing the Orioles to pass the Twins and eventually win 5-3, and then a whole host of other bad pitches and bad spots in today's game. There are lineups you might get away with some mistakes, but not this Oriole lineup.
No, not this Oriole lineup, and particularly not right now, the way several guys are swinging the bats. Of course, the Twins got a couple of them going here also.
Yes. Davis was struggling. He's got 4 hits today. Jones has 4 hits today. Up and in, 2-1.
I think what a manager would look at most of all is there are guys. There's one thing for Machado to get some hits. He doesn't have a lot of holes, and he's been really hot. But you know, Adam Jones hitting 200, and when you got a guy that's not swinging the bat well, then the most important thing is just don't help him. You know, just don't spin hanging breaking balls up there. And there's 4 of them that I can count right off the top of my head that Adam Jones hit. A couple of fastballs right in the middle of the zone to Chris Davis, who hit 200 but can hit the ball in the ballpark if you throw it right in the middle of the zone. So that's what I think a manager will look at, a pitching coach will say, well, okay, I understand these guys are good, but we don't have to help them by throwing the ball right in the middle with not a whole lot on it.
3-2. That's hit up the middle. Dozier with a nice stop. He'll save a run for the time being. Brian Dozier snagging the ball in the outfield grass, keeping Davis at third base. 4th hit of the inning, though, against Kinsler. First and third, one away now for Jonathan Scope.
Well, Brian Dozier very good at leaving his feet, diving on his belly, and coming up with ground balls. We've seen it so often that it almost looks like a routine play for him, but that's a nice play.
Scope, 3 strikeouts and a single. At the knees, a strike.
Now, if you were a second baseman in the big leagues and your name was spelled the way this young man's name was spelled, might you pronounce it Scoop? I think I'd go with Scoop.
Swing and a miss. 2 strikes. Well, he was the pivot man in an awfully big double play here. Took a good throw from Machado and quickly delivered a strong throw to double up Nunez. The bouncer hit left side. They try to go around the horn, and they do. Scope bounces into a double play. 2 runs for the Orioles that they hope they won't need in the bottom of the 9th. Necessarily enjoying the score, but enjoying Target Field nonetheless. It's 9-2. It's supposed to be a 3-game homestand, and then of course Monday's game was rained out, so it's down to a 2-gamer, and the Orioles are 3 outs away from making it 5 for 5 against the Twins. This would be the most lopsided of the 5 games. Brian Mattis comes out of the Baltimore bullpen to pitch to the Twins in the bottom of the 9th. Former starter having a tough time this year. Will face Young Ho Park, Eddie Rosario, and Juan Centeno. Park is 0 for 3, 2 strikeouts and a fly ball to right. Park's batting average tumbling down again after it was climbing above 250. Looked like it would continue to climb, but now a couple of tough ball games in this series, and it's down to 237. 2-0.
Park's missed a lot of breaking balls. It looks he's been way out in front of breaking balls. Hadn't seen that a lot from him, except for real early in the year. He got in a streak where he was seeing the ball a little bit better, the breaking ball. Now it looks like he's back to being out in front a little bit. Generally speaking, when that happens to a hitter, it looks like he's either A, a little pull conscious, or B, a little fastball conscious. Tries and identifies incorrectly fastball early and starts to swing at speed that's not going to be there.
A 4-pitch walk, just what Buck Showalter wanted to see, with a 7-run lead.
Well, that will get you pitching only in 7-run leads too.
Kind of hard to move into more highly leveraged situations when you're doing that. Here's Rosario, a double, comebacker to the mound, and a foul fly caught by Rickard, a diving catch in foul territory down the left field line. Strike one to Rosario. There's a scenario out there, and it might not be too far down the road, where Byron Buxton comes back to the big league club. He's doing very well at AAA. Swinging a foul. And there's a scenario out there that would reunite the original outfield from this year, with Buxton in center, Sano in right. But the Twins need to get this guy going.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been sent down, and has seen instead playing time taken away by Oswaldo Arcia. But in some respects, Rosario and Arcia are kind of the same player. They have some power. Arcia has a little bit more than Rosario, but Rosario is a superior defender. We've seen some outfield play this year that was unrecognizable last year. Twins envision Rosario doing a good job in left field, Buxton covering everything from foul line to foul line almost in center, and then Sano getting better as the season wore along. And I think maybe we've seen that. Sano seems to be a little more comfortable out there in right field. But Eddie Rosario is still a key guy for this Twins team if they're going to get better anytime soon. 2-2. Into center, and Jones makes the play. One away.
Well, there's no question that Eddie Rosario is an important part of this lineup and defense, and it just wasn't in the thinking this year that he would struggle anywhere close. I mean, he was projected anywhere from maybe he'll hit second, maybe he'll hit fifth, maybe he'll hit sixth behind behind Sano or Plouffe. And not put it again. You can't put it on any one player. The fact that the Twins have not swung the bat since he scored runs the way they were expected to. But he's certainly a big piece of that. There's no question about it.
Down and away, ball one. Polanco, the pinch hitter for Centeno, who picked up a couple of hits in the ball game. Squirted off the end of the bat, and the out will be at first with Park going to second. And that'll bring up Danny Santana with 2 out in the ninth. Santana with an RBI single in the 5th inning, a couple of ground balls sandwiching his base hit. And strike one. Santana getting a chance here to get his first hit as a right-handed batter. 0 for 9 with 4 strikeouts. 288 coming into the game from the other side of the plate. Down and away, a ball.
It can happen with switch hitters. You really are two different hitters up there. Just because you're swinging well one way, it doesn't translate. You have to really fight to take as many swings as you can from the side you're not seeing a lot.
High fly to center field. Jones retreats. And the Orioles sweep the Twins in a 2-game series and now have won all 5 games between the Twins and the Orioles.
Well, a lot the same that we saw in Baltimore. Orioles pitching and swinging the bats, and the Twins not so much.
Another short start from Phil Hughes. Another discouraging walk back to the clubhouse. And Anthony LaPanta, the Twins will, I don't know if they'll enjoy an off day tomorrow, but they've got one on the schedule and try to find that missing ingredient or ingredients in Cleveland Friday.
We'll preview that Cleveland series coming up on Twins Live. We'll hear from Paul Molitor. Show you how the Orioles middle of the lineup punished the Twins throughout the series. We'll break down Phil Hughes and another short start. Minnesota's lost 7 in a row. Twins Live next.